Chapter 563 The Master of the Monument, Nie Xiaofeng. Even till now, everyone still felt some disbelief at the sculptures. If this kind of ridiculous thing was not seen by one's own eyes, no one would believe it if someone else said it. I have seen the two seniors. Although she felt that she had lived before these two, since she had already crossed over, she also accepted her identity as the younger generation. Otherwise, if she were to call the juniors instead, others would think her to be mad. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's actions, the other cultivators also paid obeisance, and their faces were filled with a respectful expression. Previously, Han Shiling had already served as an example. Now, where would they date to be disrespectful? Do you still think that the dead know nothing? Did they still have the ability to try to disrespectful in front of the monument's master? This girl is very filial, I like it. Bai Qing smiled. Everyone saw that the monument's mistress directly praised Bailey Hongzhuang, and different emotions flashed across their eyes. Ji Yuna regretted not paying obeisance. She knew that in such a situation she must respect the master of the monument. Otherwise would Bailey Hongzhuang be praised now? Ji Yuna squinted and glanced at Bailey Hongzhuang. Since this woman appeared, she felt that something was wrong. If it was changed to other times, who could steal the limelight of their families? But now it seemed that whatever they do is wrong and what was done by Bailey Hongzhuang was right. It was really depressing. The master also nodded slightly and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. He also praised her more. No wonder my wife like you, and Luli is also in your hands. Bai Qing's face was warm and clear. Her smile gentle and limpid, making people feel only calm and pleasant. Everyone's heart felt like it was burning. The monument's mistress had so straightforwardly said that she liked Bailey Hongzhuang. Wouldn't the inheritance now fall into Bailey Hongzhuang's hands? Thank you, seniors, for your praise. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly said. Her beautiful face had a smile as if she was not overly excited by the master's praise. After experiencing too many things, she clearly knows that no one could decide the outcome until the last moment. Just like Han Shiling and Yanling Xian, when they first entered the monument, who would have thought that they would have left the monument without anything? Since you young people have come to the monument of Nie Xiaofeng, they must be young talents, dragons and phoenixes among people. Nie Xiaogeng's lips rose, and his eyebrows arched with confidence and arrogance. The brilliance in his moves showed his strength and power. The heads of the people drooped facing this arrogance, this confidence they could only admire. Bai Qing looked at Nie Xiaofeng, her gaze filled with admiration. It was obvious that the two were deeply affectionate. There is not much to say, everyone here has come for the inheritance of me and Qing. There are 2 inheritances in total. If you can get an inheritance you have to rely on your own skills. Nie Xiaofeng's words were determined, the pressure of the words exerted a force on everyone. Always, there was only one person who could have the inheritance. They hadn't thought that there would be 2 masters of this monument, now the chances of them getting the inheritance would be much higher. Next, Nie Xiaofeng waved his hand, and the apertures under the people swirled around. Chapter 564 was selected? Wifey, according to my master, this light of inheritance will examine the roots of each person, and thus select talented cultivators. After seeing the change in the aperture, Di Beichen couldn't help but explain it to Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly, and she could feel a gentle and strange force slowly entering her body after the aperture started spinning. If she guessed it correctly, this force must be what would evaluate her talent. About her own talent, Bailey Hongzhuang understood it very well. Although she was called a waste person in the past, her talent had never been bad since her dantian healed. After the glowing aperture spun for a while, everyone found that the aperture under their feet had changed differently. The same aperture had now begun to show different shades, from light to dark. The people were surprised to find that the apertures under the feet of some cultivators were very bright, while the apertures under the feet of other cultivators were very dull. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the aperture under her feet, and the originally red color became more and more bright, and the complex patterns became even more beautiful at the moment. Not only that, she noticed that the apertures under the feet of 2 other people were also the same as hers, respectively Lin Yirou and Xia Zhiqing. Xia Zhiqing went to Bailey Hongzhuang's side after seeing the shade of the aperture under her feet was the same as Bailey Hongzhuang's. Hongzhuang, we are exactly the same. I don't know what the change in the aperture means though? Xia Zhiqing's eyes sparkled with curiosity. For everything that was happening, she felt it was as unreal as touching clouds in the sky, and she did not understand what the monument's masters thought with doing this. Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged slightly, although she knew the role of this aperture from Di Beichen's explanation. she did not understand the criteria for the inheritance. Ji Qing, you will know soon. On the other hand, the apertures under the feet of men also showed different levels of shades. The apertures under the feet of Di Bei Qin, Gong Shaoqing and Dong Fang Yu were the brightest, and the degree of dullness or brightness of others was quite varied. After seeing this scene, everyone's eyes were looking at Nie Xiaofeng and Bai Qing. They didn't know what the final result was. Bai Qing's gaze fell onto Bailey Hong Zhuang, Lin Yiro and Xia Ji Qing. Her outstanding appearance softened as she smiled brightly. It seems that you are fated to be close to me. This inheritance depends on the three people who are the most talented. When these words were said, the expressions of the cultivators present at the moment changed. If it was this way, the one with the brightest aperture was the most talented person. Not only was Lin Yiro chosen, but it was hard to bear that the talent of Ji Yuner was not even comparable to Bailey Hong Zhuang and Xia Ji Qing. Ji Yuner's face was ugly to the extreme. She had never felt that she would lose to anyone. However, it was a joke now that her so-called talent had lost to two unknown people. This is absolutely impossible. Ji Yuner helplessly mumbled. As long as this was known to others, she would always be beneath Han Xiling. Han Xiling was now said to be one of the most talented in the younger generation, so such comparisons were inevitable, but to lose to two people who were unknown was really unbearable. As a cultivator, she felt that her pride had been lost. You are the best among the younger generation. I will only choose cultivators who are the most suitable for my inheritance. Chapter 565. Shocked. Songlan College. Bai Qing's voice was light and airy, and her gentle words were unlike Nie Xiaofeng's chilly ones. Her words were like a breeze and made people feel calm. When they heard Bai Qing's explanation, everyone let go of some of their bitterness, and even Ji Yuner's face became slightly better. If it was said that she was not suitable to accept an inheritance, she could understand, but if it was said that her cultivation talent was not good enough, then she found it unacceptable. After all, Gong Shaoqing and Dong Fang Yu were just students of Qianlan College. Although the college had always been famous, it was not comparable to the status of a cultivation family's younger generation. They could go all the way today, but in the future they wouldn't be a famous cultivator in the continent. The things that could be taught in a college were limited. Xia Ji Qing's face gave away her joy. She thought that this time she was just fortunate enough to enter a monument. She did not expect that she had a chance to get this final inheritance, which was beyond her expectations. An inheritance, this is what many cultivators dreamed of. At the thought of this, Xia Ji Qing was excited enough to jump in joy. Lin Yiro had always been placid, but at this moment she couldn't help but smile. Getting this inheritance was also beyond her expectations, and no matter what, after she obtained the inheritance, at least she had crushed Ji Yuner and others on this expedition to the monument. After this news was spread around, she had undoubtedly raised the standing of her own family. Not only that, but her position in the family would also be improved. This was a great thing. After seeing how things turned out, even Gong Shaoqing and Dong Fang Yu paused a moment. Since they had seen the people from the cultivation families, they had not held many hopes. Although the two of them believed that their cultivation talent was good enough, they also knew the gap between them and those younger generation. Therefore, they did not hold too many expectations for this final inheritance. They never thought that such a fortune would fall over their head. For a time, even they themselves could not believe it. Lu Huaiyan and Fu Hongbo's faces showed a happy expression. Although they did not have an opportunity to accept this inheritance, their students could get it, which was enough to make them happy. The two of them were not young, and their potential could naturally not be compared to the younger generation's people like Bailey Hongzhuang. Therefore, the two of them had never even thought of getting the inheritance. Now, only Lin Yiro had the opportunity to get the inheritance from the 4 cultivation families who came. The other 5 chosen were all from their college. Once this news spread, what kind of glory awaited their college? You have really worked hard. Lu Huaiyan patted Gong Shaoqing's shoulder, and his face was filled with gratification. After they returned to the college, he and Fu Hongbo would have considerable bragging material. Gong Shaoqing and the others nodded. These 2 teachers had helped them a lot, and in their heart they felt very grateful. When did the students of a college get so talented? The cultivation talent of a college's student had always been above common people, but this achievement is really surprising. It seems that this time the college is going to be really famous. Everyone felt a lot of different emotions, and there was bitterness in their hearts. This was such a good opportunity, but they had lost it. Chapter 566. Great minds think alike. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other with a faint smile. Other people can leave. Nie Xiaofeng's voice was cold, not even waiting for everyone to speak. His hand waved, and everyone felt a strong wind blowing as a force wrapped around them. They could not control their bodies as they were directly sent outside. Xia Zhiqing and the other people saw that the other cultivators had disappeared from the main hall in an instant, and even the main hall door was closed, and their eyes once again showed a faint agitation. Previously, only Han Xiling and Yanling Xian had disappeared, so it was still a little better. Now it was shocking to see such a large group of people being sent away with just a wave of the hand. After Han Xiling and Yanling Xian were sent out of the monument, they stood in front of it. This was the second time they were standing in front of the monument, but the feeling was completely different from before. They had been humiliated so publicly, and they were even told off for their impoliteness in front of everyone. It was really shameful. They lost a lot of face. Once this news spread, they were afraid that they wouldn't be able to see anyone for a while. Yanling Xian's face was extremely ugly. After thinking about it for a while, he couldn't help but say, Han Gunyang, I don't know if you are going to go back to Tiangang Zong or wait here? Now they had completely lost the chance to get the inheritance. They had been pretty confident when they left for here. They only thought that this inheritance would definitely fall into their hands. Who could think that they had not only not gotten the inheritance, but even had no chance to compete for it? Han Xiling's face was cold and indifferent, and in her heart she was even more furious. It was nothing to lose face in front of others, but she actually lost face in front of Dage. All of this was because of Bailey Hongzhuang. I'll stay here. Han Xiling's eyes became sharper. How could she leave before the result was confirmed? Since she had been labeled as impolite, then she would like to see if this inheritance could really become Bailey Hongzhuang's, the one who knew to be polite and filial. Han Gunyang wants to know who will get the inheritance? Yanling Xian noticed the change in Han Xiling's expression, and couldn't help but ask. Han Xiling looked at Yanling Xian with cold eyes and asked, You are not curious? Yanling Xian smiled. I don't know who will be the heir to the final inheritance. I only know that this inheritance will never fall into the hands of that Bailey Hongzhuang. His words showed Yanling Xian's confidence and determination. There were many cultivators present, and their talents were more incredible and they were more powerful than Bailey Hongzhuang. Even if Bailey Hongzhuang knew how to be polite, he did not believe that the master of the monument would choose Bailey Hongzhuang as the inheritor just because of Bailey Hongzhuang's pretty words. After all, to such a powerful person the most important thing was talent and potential. Listening to Yanling Xian's words, Han Xiling's face became slightly better. Great minds think alike. The next moment Han Xiling found a place to sit down. Now that they had come very close to the final inheritance, she believed that they would not have to wait here for too long. She only needed to cultivate here for some time and they would come out. However, just as Han Xiling was preparing to close her eyes and cultivate, she only felt a familiar wind flowing through, and there appeared a lot of cultivators in front of her eyes. Seeing this, Han Xiling couldn't help but stand up, looking for a moment in the crowd, but found that she could not find the figures of Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang, and her heart couldn't help but have some doubts. Chapter 567 Collapses. Yanling Xian, why don't I see Dage? Han Xiling whispered to herself, and there was doubt and confusion in her mind. Yanling Xian directly went to Yan family's cultivators and asked, Who got the inheritance? Right now this was his most concerning issue. No matter which cultivator it was passed down to, he will face them in the future, so the cultivator needed to be more careful. Young master, a total of 6 people stayed back in the monument. A Yan cultivator replied back loudly, in addition to Di Beichen and Lin Yiro, the other 4 were cultivators from Zhanglan College. After hearing this result, Yanling Xian quietly breathed a sigh of relief. What he was most worried about was that the inheritance would fall into the hands of a cultivator from another family. As a result, they would have been able to increase their power, disturbing the equilibrium of their strengths, which was divided equally. For this he was naturally unwilling. Lin Yiro. Yanling Xian's eyebrows slowly rose. Lin Yiro's performance on this expedition was completely different from the past. He hadn't expected the inheritance to be passed down to her. The good news was the only person chosen was Lin Yiro, and Ji Yuner and Huang Fu Hui had not been selected. He was not concerned about Di Beichen, because Di Beichen's strength was stronger than him. Since he was already a lot stronger, it did not matter. As for the cultivators of the college, he did not have to worry about them. He and the cultivators of the college could not be compared, and they won't be much problem in the future. Their strength or weakness had nothing to do with him. However, the next moment Yanling Xian's brows knotted, Bailey Hongzhuang, seemed to be a cultivator from the college. Which 4 cultivators were chosen from that college? Young master, I don't know their names. The people who were asked were embarrassed. They had never had any intersections with people who cultivated in a college, and naturally they will not know their names. On seeing this, Yan Lingxian's eyes became darker. So, is that Bailey Hongzhuang still inside? Bailey Hongzhuang is inside, Yan family's cultivator nodded. The mistress of the monument seemed to like Bailey Hongzhuang very much. Hearing this, Yan Lingxian's face became ugly. He had thought that the inheritance wouldn't be passed down to Bailey Hongzhuang. He didn't expect that she would not only get it but also be favored. How had this happened? He just couldn't understand. It hadn't mattered what Bailey Hongzhuang did because he thought she was a vase. He had been extremely sure that the inheritance could never be won by Bailey Hongzhuang. The heir of inheritance was carefully chosen and Bailey Hongzhuang should not have been chosen. It was hard to imagine where Di Beiqin found Bailey Hongzhuang from when he left. If she continued to develop like this, the future Bailey Hongzhuang would be a thorn whenever he saw her. Ji Yuner slowly walked to Han Shiling's side, and her pretty face showed sarcasm. Han Shiling, you think that Bailey Hongzhuang is not your opponent, but I don't think so. The smile on Ji Yuner's face gradually became wider. You were kicked out of the monument but still show such a proud look. Bailey Hongzhuang even obtained the inheritance. I feel that she and Di Beiqin's loving expression is very suitable. Ji Yuner now understood that all of Di Beiqin's thoughts were on Bailey Hongzhuang. She naturally did not have to say that Han Shiling's importance was not worth as much as Bailey Hongzhuang's in Di Beiqin's eyes. Chapter 568 Sarcasm. Ji Yuner. All along, Ji Yuner had thoughts for Di Beiqin. Firstly because of Di Beiqin's strength and status, and secondly because of how extremely handsome Di Beiqin was. No matter from which angle, Di Beiqin was perfect, and in many women's minds he was the best man. If she could marry Di Beiqin, then her identity would rise and become excellent. Today she understood that there was no possibility between her and Di Beiqin. Instead of pining for him, it was better to directly give up. After all, men who were as good as Di Beiqin were not many, but there were still other good men. She wouldn't be able to do anything if she kept pursuing this infatuation. However, Han Shiling, she had not liked Han Shiling since before. She hated Han Shiling's cold temperament and arrogant attitude. Men's eyes seemed to turn to beads when they looked at her. Originally, Han Shiling actually wanted her to deal with Bailey Hongzhuang. This Han Shiling was actually looking down on her. Since she had given up on Di Beiqin now, I would be better to take this opportunity to dig a pit for Han Shiling. She would like to see if Han Shiling could still maintain her proud temper after. With Ji Yuner's voice falling, Han Shiling looked at her coldly, her gaze looking colder each second. Whether they are suitable or not, it doesn't have anything to do with you. Her cold voice calm and proud, and Han Shiling's posture was still the same, but deep inside she felt like someone had wounded her. The masters of this monument was a couple, and now they had allowed Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beiqin to remain in the monument, but she had been driven out. This was tantamount to saying that she was an unrelated third party, and should be abandoned. Ji Yuner's eyebrows rose and she shrugged, then laughing she said, "It has nothing to do with me. I just feel it's a bit funny. Han Shiling, who is always proud of herself, now can't even keep the man she loves. Can't even see that you shouldn't long for things that aren't yours. In my opinion, Bailey Hongzhuang can't be worse than you. At least in grasping a man's heart, you have completely lost." Ji Yuner said these in a mocking tone, not caring at all how her remarks made Han Shiling's face uglier. She turned and walked back to her family's ranks to go back home. Over the years, Han Shiling's arrogant temper had hurt her a lot. Just because her strength was not as good as Han Shiling, she had been crushed. Now that Han Shiling didn't give her even a little face, she doesn't mind ridiculing her. At least she was happy. After giving up on Di Beiqin, she only thought that she hated her previous hypocrisy and liked Bailey Hongzhuang a lot better than that arrogant Han Shiling. Perhaps this facade she put up will be completely taken off one day. The expedition has ended, let's go back. Ji Yuner waved happily, leaving the forest with their team. Continuing to stay here had no meaning. Han Shiling looked at Ji Yuner's back, her eyes flashed with sharp murderousness. However, this Bailey Hongzhuang was really not a simple character. Huang Fu family's team also did not delay. While they left with Ji Yuner and her team, the Lin family's team found a place to rest. They were waiting for Lin Yiro to come out. Yan Lingxian's face was still ugly, thinking back to how he had declared so surely that Bailey Hongzhuang would not get the inheritance. and now he felt like had been severely hit on his face. But, seeing that he finally had an opportunity to talk more with Han Shiling, he couldn't leave directly because of this. Chapter 569 Graceful by Qing Han Gunyang. Except for cultivators who got the inheritance, everyone else has already come out. Are you still going to stay here? Yanling Xian looked at Han Shiling's expression and asked tentatively. Han Shiling's face a little gloomy. In the end, the result was one that she had been least willing to see. Seeing Han Shiling did not speak, Yanling Xian followed. If Han Gunyang is also ready to leave, isn't it better if we go together? Hearing this, Han Shiling looked at Yanling Xian indifferently, and in the same tone said, You go first, I want to wait for D-Dage to come back. Yanling Xian's expression was a bit stiff. He hadn't thought that even at this moment Han Shiling would still stubbornly choose to wait for D-Beichen to come out. Since Han Gunyang wants to continue to wait here, then I will go back first. Yanling Xian's eyes flashed with complex emotion. It would have been an excellent thing if he could be with Han Shiling at this time. But he needed to go back and report everything to his family. If he had performed extremely well in this monument, he could still do things his own way. However, he did not have the least bit of gain on this expedition. He had turned into a joke in front of everyone's eyes. If he didn't go back, he was afraid that the family elders would be furious. Han Shiling nodded, and Yanling Xian gazed at Han Shiling deeply, and there was a bit of reluctance in his eyes. He turned his head and left the miasma forest together with Yan family's team. Bailey Hongzhuang found that she was in a peach forest, just like Jingli Garden. Peach blossoms filled the whole sky, fragrance everywhere. A cool breeze brushed past and petals floated down, the insipid pink turning the world into a dreamland. Almost at the very first moment she saw the scene in front of her, Bailey Hongzhuang realized that she was once again in an illusion. It seemed that the masters of this monument were really proficient in the way of illusions. Suddenly, a piece of music sounded, and the pleasant sound seemed to be calling for Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but walk to the depths of the peach forest to find the source of this sound. So far, she still hadn't understood how this illusion would test her. She could only take one step at a time now. As she gradually entered the depths of the peach forest, Bailey Hongzhuang found a delicate pavilion in the middle of the forest. Between the swirling pink petals, she could see vaguely a graceful and charming figure. 3,000 black silk strands poured down her shoulder like a waterfall, and the pink and red dress covered the ground around her. The sound of the guqin poured from beneath her two hands, creating a beautiful melody. Just looking at the dusty view from behind, even if it was Bailey Hongzhuang, for this woman she couldn't help but admire. Just looking at the back view, she could conclude that this woman was one with peerless elegance. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly went forward, performed obeisance and said, I have troubled and disturbed Mississippi. The music gradually stopped, and the woman sitting before her slowly stood up, and a glamorous and familiar face appeared before Bailey Hongzhuang's sight. This person was the mistress of the monument, Bai Qing. It turned out to be predecessor. Bailey Hongzhuang once again gave obeisance, and there was a little praise in Bai Qing's eyes. As she had guessed, the mistress of the monument was graceful and charming. The corners of Bai Qing's lips spread into a gentle smile, and she looked carefully at Bailey Hongzhuang. I, Bai Qing, have seen many women in my life. The world has praised me for being outstanding. In my opinion, you are the real one who can ruin and overtake cities. Chapter 570 To learn, the four arts. Bai Qing's face had a stunned expression, but it was without the slightest bit of envy. The very first time she had seen Bailey Hongzhuang, she could not ignore her beauty. Because, such a beautiful person, she had really seen it for the first time. Senior praises me too much, you are also a first-class beauty. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips had a faint smile. There were many beautiful people in the world, but a temperamental beauty like Bai Qing was rare. Her body seemed to be filled with an unspeakable charm. Usually, even beauty would lack affinity. Therefore, Bai Qing's temperament and her beauty really drew her in. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Bai Qing's smile widened a bit. Looks outstanding, talent is also very good, and there is humbleness that I don't see in many young cultivators. You are really good. Bailey Hongzhuang's face had a smile, but there was still some doubt in her mind. She didn't know how Bai Qing intended to test her. The next moment, Bai Qing looked a bit more serious and said, Have you mastered the four arts? Bailey Hongzhuang felt awkward. When it came to cultivation and medical skills, she was quite good, but for the four arts, she really had no understanding of them. Since she was a child, she had put all her energy into cultivation. Although the four arts, zither, go, painting and calligraphy, also had a certain weight, and the females of her family had studied them. However, she had been identified as the successor to the patriarch since early, so she did not have time to get in touch with these. The identity of being the former young miss of a general should have made her quite involved in these, but her identity as a waste person had caused her to be left out. Even her stomach had not been filled properly, let alone teaching her the four arts. Looking at the change in Bailey Hongzhuang's expression, Bai Qing couldn't help but ask, "No." There was a little helplessness in Bailey Hongzhuang's face, but she still calmly admitted, "To tell you the truth, I have no understanding of these." Although she did not understand the relationship of the four arts with the inheritance, she also knew that this was the test of Bai Qing. In these things she was afraid that she couldn't do well at all. Bai Qing had a strange expression, but she quickly returned to normal. "In this case, my inheritance may be a bit difficult for you." Bai Qing smiled lightly. "What do you think of my Guzheng?" "Naturally, it is excellent." Bailey Hongzhuang sighed. Although she did not understand these well, she still had the most basic understanding of what to appreciate. "In that case, do you have the confidence to reach my level?" When Bai Qing's voice fell, Bailey Hongzhuang paused, but her heart was full of thoughts. Generally speaking, cultivation and Guzheng playing was not at all close to each other. Even if Bai Qing could play beautifully, this won't be regarded as a standard of assessment. In this way there was only one possibility, that is that Bai Qing's strength has a certain connection with Guzheng playing. Bailey Hongzhuang's heart had this faint conjecture. Next, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes turned sharp, and her beautiful face was filled with confidence and firmness. Yes. Although she has never learned these, she believed that she just needed to learn it seriously and she would not fail. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang so confident, the smile in Bai Qing's eyes deepened. "So, let's get started." Since then there had been two beautiful women sitting in the pavilion. The sound of Guzheng notes poured from the pavilion and wandered through the entire peach forest. Chapter 571 Accomplished Learning, Killing with Sound. While Bailey Hongzhuang began to learn, Lin Yirou and Xia Zhiqing also accepted the teachings of Bai Qing in another illusion. However, the content learned by the three people was different, but everyone worked hard to follow Bai Qing's instructions, striving to succeed Bai Qing's teachings. On the other side, Di Beiqin, Gong Shaoqing and Dong Fangyu also accepted the teachings of Nie Xiaofeng in different illusions. Compared to the wonderful illusion that Bai Qing simulated, their illusion was undoubtedly much crueler. If someone were still in the main hall, they would find the 6 people lined up in a row, sitting in front of the 2 statues. They were completely still, only their expressions slightly changing. Master seems to have entered an illusion again. Xiao He sighed helplessly, just looking at the scene in front of him. This could be judged. Xiao Bai nodded. "Yes, I don't know how long it will take Master before she comes out of this illusion. We can only wait here. It is a pity, if only we could enter the illusion too." Xiao He sighed. An illusion would act on a cultivator's spiritual power, so their master entered the illusion, while they too were still outside. "We'll wait for them to succeed, okay?" Xiao Bai took a look at Xiao He and directly went into a state of cultivation. The whole hall was boring. It was better to cultivate than to continue learning. On seeing this, Xiao He glanced at Xiao Bai, then he too reluctantly started to cultivate. In the beautiful pavilion, the notes that originally sounded awkward and ugly continued to be refined each day, until the noise disappeared completely and turned to something pleasing to the ear. In addition to learning the Guqin, Bailey Hongzhuang now also had a good understanding of Go and calligraphy. Bai Qing was a well-deserved master and everything about her was good. No matter what she did, she was good at it, but the art that Bailey Hongzhuang learned the most was the Guqin. Because the Guqin music she earned was not for the sake of entertainment, but for killing people. After seeing the killing aura accompanying Bai Qing's Guqin notes, Bailey Hongzhuang was also amazed. Killing people with sound was a very special technique. As early as 1,000 years ago when she was in the Bailey family, she had heard of killing people with sound. The method was only mastered by a special family. Except for the cultivators of that family, no one else could learn it. This was a very remarkable method. It had a wide range of function and was not suitable for single-player combat, but it was suitable for group battles. If you could affect an opponent within a few hundred meters from you just using the sound of Guqin, then it was, of course, a powerful method. She had never thought that she would have the opportunity to learn such a technique in the monument, and undoubtedly this was an added card for her. A Guqin note sounded from beneath Bailey Hongzhuang's hands, strong tyrannical energy accompanying the Guqing's note. When the time came, the peach trees in front of her were slammed by it and broke. The peach blossoms were all destroyed by the Guqing's sound. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly stood up and looked at the disappearing peach forest in front of her with a smile on her face. She had studied the Guqing music here for 3 years and finally mastered it. In the last 3 years she had not only mastered this technique but also made great progress in her own strength. Her combat skills had greatly improved, and it was no small change since she first came to the monument. Clap clap. Bai Qing smiled and applauded gently, looking at Bailey Hongzhuang with eyes filled full of satisfaction. Chapter 572 Farewell. 3 years of memories, your understanding ability is very high, beyond my expectations. Bai Qing's face had an appreciative expression. This time, Bailey Hongzhuang's quick grasping power had really amazed her. However, in addition to her understanding, she had a deeper impression of Bailey Hongzhuang's persistence and hard work. This kind of persistence and perseverance to reach her level was really admirable to her. If all cultivators could have such qualities, then they need not worry about their future achievements. She had seen too many cultivators whose talent and intellect was not lacking, but in the end they did not succeed much just because they did not work hard enough. As a woman, especially a beautiful woman, there were even fewer people who worked as hard as Bailey Hongzhuang. It seems that she had really found the best inheritor. In the beginning she spent a lot of time studying the art of killing with music. She'd complained, wanted to give up, but had finally persisted under her master's careful nurturing. The time Bailey Hongzhuang had spent was even shorter than hers, and there was never the slightest mention of giving up. Her will was always firm, and despite her young age, she showed a maturity that most people her age didn't possess. Thank you, Master, for your careful teachings. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled cleverly and walked forward to Bai Qing. Bai Qing was a well-deserved master. Her temper was not the slightest bit picky. She had taught her very carefully. It was for this reason that she could have progressed so fast. Previously she did not know what this illusion was. She only thought that it would be necessary to break the illusion before she passed the assessment. She never thought that her assessment would be carried out in the illusion. Since you have mastered the art thoroughly, then my inheritance is over and you can leave. Bai Qing smiled. Hearing these words, Bailey Hongzhuang's smile that had been overflowing with happiness on her face quietly changed a bit, as a feeling of disappointment spread in her heart. In the past 3 years she had been with Bai Qing, and her relationship with Bai Qing was one of both teacher and friend. She had known that such a day would come but had forgotten that after the inheritance ended, Bai Qing would disappear. At the thought of this, Bailey Hongzhuang actually hoped that this inheritance would never end. Master! Bailey Hongzhuang yelled, and her beautiful and charming face was full of disappointment, and her pair of glassy eyes were faintly red. Bai Qing smiled and said, Silly Hongzhuang, there will always be days like this. My soul has already scattered between heaven and earth. That you could find this monument also makes me leave without regrets. While Bai Qing's words were free and full of ease, but even her eyes were faintly tearful. Master, Bailey Hongzhuang opened her mouth but she did not know what to say. She understood that Bai Qing was telling the truth, but such a farewell could only be called ruthless to herself and to her. Farewell. Bai Qing waved her hand and turned her back to Bailey Hongzhuang, a line of tears streaming as she quietly left. Bailey Hongzhuang was stunned looking at Bai Qing's graceful and unparalleled figure. She felt that Bai Qing was the most beautiful woman that she had ever seen in her life. Thank you, Master, for your grace and inheritance. Bailey Hongzhuang bowed to 90 degrees and gave obeisance. Her voice was heavy and full of sadness. When she saw Bai Qing's figure gradually becoming illusory in front of her eyes, a soft and sweet voice floated to her in the air. Don't feel sad, you and I were lucky to meet each other. I only hope that you can go further and further in the future. May what I have taught you and what you learned help you a lot. Chapter 573 A myriad stars surround the moon. Bailey Hongzhuang. As Bai Qing's voice fell, her figure turned to blue smoke in front of Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes, and the illusion of the peach blossom forest in front of her was shattered into pieces in an instant. Gotcha. It sounded like the sound of a breaking mirror, and the illusion in front of Bailey Hongzhuang disappeared completely. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly opened her eyes and looked at the vivid sculptures in front of her. The corner of her mouth slowly upturned in a smile. Bai Qing had become one of the people who had made an impression on her in this life. They were not born in the same era, but they still had such a fate. The next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang went up to Bai Qing and Ye Xiaofeng and bowed down. She understood that there was no use even if she wanted them to come back, so she just thanked Bai Qing's sculpture in front of her. Turning around, Bailey Hongzhuang's figure flickered and she was sent outside the monument. When Bailey Hongzhuang came out of the monument, the bright and warm sunshine fell on her body, making it look as if she had been dusted with a layer of gold powder. Feeling the light of the sun, Bailey Hongzhuang's cinnabar lips slowly turned up in a smile. Now out of the monument, but there was still a feeling of separation. Wifey. A fascinating and magnetic voice suddenly sounded, and then a figure clad in pale gold appeared in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. The tall figure like bamboo was extremely graceful, and the handsome and extraordinary face was perfect. Di Beichen's face had a gentle smile, and he quickly walked to Bailey Hongzhuang. When she saw Di Beichen, Bailey Hongzhuang's face also showed a smile. You came out earlier than me. When she came out of the illusion, in the whole hall there was no one but her. We all came out only a few days before you. Xia Zhiqing's face was filled with an excited smile. Hongzhuang, you can be considered the slowest this time, haha. Lin Yirou, Dong Fangyu and Gong Shaoqing all walked together to Bailey Hongzhuang's side, and all of their faces had a joyous smile. Bailey Gunyang, your inheritance was the longest, the inheritance you obtained must be the most precious. Lin Yirou's voice was quiet, and her words had a different meaning than Xia Zhiqing's. Hearing these words, doubt appeared in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. How could it be? We have different inheritances? They all had accepted the inheritance together, and then entered the illusion. She'd only thought that they all accepted the same inheritance. Xia Zhiqing shook her head. I previously thought that the inheritance accepted by everyone was the same. However, after I talked to Lin Gunyang, I discovered that the inheritance we had received was not the same. I learned a set of whip skills while Lin Gunyang learned swordsmanship. Not only us but the inheritance of Di Beichen, Gong Shaoqing and Dong Fangyu was also different. Bailey Hongzhuang now understood. Although they all got an inheritance, the inheritance passed down were not the same. It turned out so. Han Shiling had been waiting for Bailey Hongzhuang to come out and saw everyone rushed up to her and surround her when she came out. Previously she'd always been like a star. However, Bailey Hongzhuang was the moon, and everyone else around her were stars surrounding her, they would all pay attention to her. The most important thing was that even Di Dage's smile was for Bailey Hongzhuang. In the past, although Di Dage's smile was often on his face, the smile didn't come from the bottom of his heart. It was just a perfunctory gesture. Now Di Dage's face came from the bottom of his heart. This kind of smile, except for when facing the sovereign, he would probably only give it to Bailey Hongzhuang. Chapter 574 The Four Arts, How is it possible? Hongzhuang, what inheritance did you get? Xia Zhiqing revealed her curiosity. After this trip to the monument, she had discovered that inheritance was a very magical thing. If it wasn't for her personally experiencing it and only others saying, she would not believe it. With Xia Zhiqing's voice falling, everyone's eyes fell on Bailey Hongzhuang's figure, and some of them too wondered what inheritance she had got. I learned the four arts. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. How is it possible? This inheritance actually taught you the four arts? When these words were said, everyone paused and then looked at Bailey Hongzhuang incredulously. They only felt that they had heard it wrong. Dong Fangyu's were full of a strange expression. After all, they all had learned very powerful martial arts. The inheritance of a peerlessly strong master was not about cultivation, but about the four arts. There seemed to be something wrong here? Hongzhuang, you shouldn't be joking, right? Xia Zhiqing was worried. This answer was really too unexpected. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and her eyebrows revealed her sly look. I am telling the truth. During this time she really had studied Guqin, Go, calligraphy and painting with all her heart. It was only that it had been integrated with attack power. At the time, everyone was puzzled, only Di Beichen's eyes were shining. Since everyone has already come out, I am going to leave. Lin Yirou smiled, her smile gentle and quiet. The family is still waiting for me to come back and report the news, and I won't be able to stay here any longer. Listening to this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others nodded. Lin Jia's cultivators had been waiting outside the monument for Lin Yirou. Take care. Bailey Hongzhuang waved her hand. She and Lin Yirou were not too familiar with each other. However, Lin Yirou and she has a very good relationship and their impression of the other was quite good. In addition, Lin Yirou had come out earlier and the reason she had waited until now was for her because she also felt some friendship. Take care. Lin Yirou waved her hand to the crowd, still smiling. I hope there will be opportunities to meet in the future. Then Lin Yiro walked back to Lin Jia's team. They had to go back. Hong Zhuang, since you have already come out, we should go back to the college. Gong Xiaoqing slowly said. This time the duration they had stayed out was not short. Hearing this, Bailey Hong Zhuang nodded slightly. Yes, how long have we been in the monument so far? She'd stayed in the illusion for 3 years, but she didn't know how long it had been in reality. We have been in the monument for about 1 month now. The peach blossom eyes were full of smiles as Dong Fangyu said. In fact, when they came out of the inheritance, everyone had asked this question. They originally felt that they had stayed inside for many years, but they never could have thought that it was only for about a month. This made them feel that the two masters were even more peerless. In just 2 weeks, they had been able to master martial arts of such high caliber. Was amazing. It turned out to be so. Bailey Hong Zhuang was stunned. Although this situation was somewhat as she expected, she still felt that she had spent 3 years, but in actuality the time was only half a month. In half a month she had mastered the skill of killing people with sound, which was really a big gain. Chapter 575 Acting Poor. Han Shiling, let's go back. We've stayed back in the monument for so many days, and I really want to go back to the college. Xia Zhiqing entwined her hand and looked excited. The previous situation was too tense, and the pressure she felt was quite high. Now that they had finally completed the inheritance, they should go back and relax. Listening to Xia Zhiqing's words, everyone's faces showed a smile. This was also their thought. Just when everyone was ready to leave, Han Shiling walked in front of Di Beichen and said, Di Dage, you and I should go back to Tiangang Zone. With Han Shiling's words falling, the previous very happy atmosphere immediately changed, as things became rigid between them. For this Han Shiling, although they know that Han Shiling was distinguished and noble, and also had good cultivation, but for this woman, they really do not have any good feelings. Not for others, but because Bailey Hong Zhuang was their friend. Any woman that tried to come between Bailey Hong Zhuang and Di Beichen, they would naturally not like her. Di Beichen's brows slightly wrinkled as he said, Shiling, go back on your own. I am going to the college. Dage, that college will not help you at all, but it will drag down your progress. Why do you need to go to that college? Han Shiling's eyebrows also wrinkled, her eyes full of advice. She really did not understand, was this Bailey Hong Zhuang really so charming? What kind of status and weight did Di Dage have? Now, for Bailey Hong Zhuang, he didn't even care about anything. It was really hard for her to believe. This is my business, you don't have to worry. Di Beichen's voice was firm and determined, and the unmistakable meaning was revealed. He did not intend to listen to Han Shiling's advice. Han Shiling's face changed a bit. In front of so many people, Di Dage was acting so indifferent to her. Di Dage, why are you treating me like this? The elegant and moving face was full of sadness and loss, and Han Shiling's voice was low, but it revealed her pitiful state. Hong Zhuang, this Han Shiling is really despicable, trying so hard to pretend to be poor. Xia Zhiqing looked dissatisfied. As a woman, she could best understand women. What she hated most were fake women. Di Beichen's attitude was clearly expressed, and Di Beichen and Bailey Hong Zhuang were married. They too were already a couple. No matter whether Han Shiling matched the identity of Di Beichen or not, she had no right to cause any disturbance now. In her opinion, Han Shiling, who was said to be great by others, was fake. She simply didn't care about her and only thought that Han Shiling was really shameless. What was good about a woman who tried to destroy feelings between a couple, even if she was quite good? Bailey Hong Zhuang sneered. For this Han Shiling, she already understood her, but she was not willing to talk too much. Shiling, you go back to Tiangang Zone and cultivate well. You don't need to take care of my affairs. Di's voice was very cold. I want to accompany my wife back to the college, and I will come back to Tiangang Zone in the future, together with my wife. Hearing this, Han Shiling looked at Di Beichen incredulously. Was it that Di Dage was planning to always be with Bailey Hong Zhuang? How could that be? What was the identity of Bailey Hong Zhuang? Di Dage wanted to stay with Bailey Hong Zhuang in the future. Was he completely ignoring his own future? Di Dage, when did you become so irrational? Han Shiling looked disappointed. How will you take care of your affairs in the future? Chapter 576 Left speechless. Han Shiling, my business, I can take care of it. There wasn't the slightest hint of a smile on Di Beichen's face, and in his voice was a hint of intolerance. Shiling, you have never muddled in my matters before. It is better to go back and cultivate, no need to worry about my affairs. Seeing that Di Beichen's words were no longer polite, Han Shiling's face became uglier by the second, and her heart was even more hateful to Bailey Hongzhuang. Before Bailey Hongzhuang appeared, Di Dage has never spoken to her with such an attitude. Master, this Han Shiling's face is really thick. Even after saying all this, she is still so persistent? Xiao Hei's expression was full of disgust. All those Han Shiling is elegant as a lotus, cold and proud, were nothing but lies. What was this Han Shiling who kept persisting despite having been told off? Gong Xiaoqing and Dong Fangyu were also helpless at this moment. This kind of matter was really chaotic. Di Dage, I am doing these for you. Han Shiling frowned pitifully. Not waiting for Di Beichen to speak, Xia Zhiqing had already spoken out loud first. I say, Han Shiling, Di Beichen has already told you don't need to be nosy, and you're still here talking about what, ah? Han Shiling hesitated, but still continued as she retorted to Xia Zhiqing. This matter is between Di Dage and me, what's it to you? It's nothing to do with me, then Di Beichen and Hongzhuang's matters don't have anything to do with you either. Xia Zhiqing crossed her arms, a justified look on her face. I don't understand. Is it necessary for you to intervene in the matters between a husband and wife? You really are quite thick-faced to call me an unrelated party while being one yourself. Di Beichen has already said that he wants to stay with his wife. That said, why are you trying to stop him? If you're so bored, it's better to go and find a husband, right? I think Yanling Shen is right for you. Xia Zhiqing didn't pause to take a breath and said all these, directly forcing Han Shiling into speechlessness, unable to retort. She really couldn't stand it anymore. From the very beginning, this woman had made very clear that she had likes Di Beichen. Fortunately, Di Beichen's attitude was very firm. He had already shown that there was only Bailey Hongzhuang in his heart, but Han Shiling's later moves were really disgusting. Letting her do as she pleased before she scrammed, even speaking to her tactfully, this woman couldn't understand it at all. This kind of person was the most disgusting. Hearing Xia Zhiqing's remarks, Gong Xiaoqing and Dong Fangyu were both amazed. Although they had always known that Xia Zhiqing's words were not soft, but such poisonous words, her ability to curse could not be underestimated. Amazing, extremely amazing. Xiao Hei clapped. Xia Zhiqing's words are really fitting. This character, this temper, it really suits Master's friend, haha. Xiaobai was also very excited. If it were not that they could not appear before anyone, they would have already rushed to Han Shiling and hit her. This kind of thing their master wouldn't agree with it, but they could still hope. They hadn't expected Xia Zhiqing to speak up. This really made them feel very happy. Bailey Hongzhuang's face also had a sly smile. She had still been polite with her actions, but Han Shiling was taking things too far, she couldn't stand it. Han Shiling trembled with anger. No one had ever dared to speak to her this way since she was a child. I flushed red with rage, but Han Shiling could not say a word of retort. Chapter 577. Don't provoke my wife to unhappiness, don't you, I me mine? Go back, we don't have anyone here who welcomes you. Xia Zhiqing was extremely ruthless. She was a good friend of Bailey Hongzhuang, naturally she would vent for Hongzhuang. This Han Shiling's face was so thick, even if she was explained to like a child, she was afraid that there would be no improvement in her actions. It was better to directly tear down her face, she would make sure this woman had no face to continue staying here. Han Shiling had never been spoken to in this way since she was born, and she was not good at coping with it. Therefore, under Xia Zhiqing's flying barrage of words, she could not answer a word at all. Di Dage. In desperation, Han Shiling could only look at Di Beichen. How the other people and Bailey Hongzhuang looked at her, she did not care, she only cared about the thoughts of Di Beichen. However, Di Beichen did not comfort her as she had imagined. On the contrary, Di Beichen's words did not have the slightest sentiment. Xia Gunyang's words are very reasonable. I already have a union with Hongzhuang. With you acting like this, it is easy to misunderstand and that will cause my wife to be unhappy. I don't want my wife to be unhappy. I hope that between you and me we can keep distance, it is the best for us. Di Beichen's words were indifferent without the slightest ambiguity, full of emotions for Bailey Hongzhuang. He had always been a person who was extremely indifferent, but in this life, there would only be Bailey Hongzhuang for him. Previously in the monument, Bailey Hongzhuang's rhetorical question had made him understand a lot of things. In his eyes, Shiling had always been arrogant and cold, never going to others to find trouble, but this time Shiling had obviously taken the initiative to trouble Bailey Hongzhuang. He believed that Bailey Hongzhuang was not a person who said anything without reason. Since she had said those words, she must have found some problems. He did not want things to develop into an irreversible situation, so he must make everything clear now. This attitude would also reassure his wife. Han Xiling saw Di Beichen's attitude and her face became gloomy to the extreme, and she noticed Xia Zhiqing and others looking at her. Their eyes were full of ridicule and she felt it. In her heart she became even angrier. Di Dage, that woman is not worthy of you at all, you will return to Tiangangzong sooner or later. Her voice falling, Han Xiling no longer looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and the other people, running towards the front, ready to leave. She's finally gone. Xia Zhiqing sighed. I was really worried, not knowing when that woman would go. Dong Fangyu discreetly gave a thumbs up to Xia Zhiqing, and Xia Zhiqing's face was really happy. These days he had long understood that there was no possibility between him and Hongzhuang, but he also hoped that Bailey Hongzhuang could be happy. Obviously, Han Xiling was a stumbling block in Bailey Hongzhuang's happiness. Naturally she had to leave. Although Gong Shaoqing's attitude was not as obviously expressed as Dong Fangyu, it could be seen that he agreed from his slight nod. Di Beichen changed his line of sight as he gazed at Bailey Hongzhuang. His lips were curved in a charming and evil smile as he asked, Wifey, I did this, do you feel satisfied? For him now this was nothing. The most important thing was Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged. Slightly, but this trouble is what you stirred up. Hearing this, Di Beichen's smile grew slightly wider. My lady is a magnanimous person. In the future, I promise that this kind of thing will not happen again, okay? Chapter 578 Because I want to marry you. Bailey Hongzhuang squinted and looked at Di Beichen's face. Won't happen again? What has it got to do with me though? This guy was the big trouble magnet. Ji Yuner troubled them because of him, Han Xiling caused trouble because of him too. Therefore Di Beichen was the biggest trouble. Di Beichen walked to Bailey Hongzhuang's side and directly held her hand. He smiled and asked, Is wifey angry? Xia Zhiqing and the others were on the side of Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang. After hearing those words they couldn't look at them anymore and walked back, leaving some space between them and Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang. What am I angry about? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. It's just because you caused two troublesome people to appear and it's too bothersome. The thing with Xiling was indeed beyond my expectations, but I have told Xiling clearly she won't trouble wifey again. How? Di Beichen's voice and eyes were very loving. Bailey Hongzhuang had actually been very polite to Han Xiling. She is, after all, a sister you have known for many years. How can I compare with her? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled, but there was a slight self-deprecating expression on her face, her eyebrows drawn. When these words were said, Di Beichen's expression changed a bit, and he couldn't help but turn Bailey Hongzhuang's body as he stared into her eyes. Wifey, in my Di Beichen's heart, you are the most important, no one can compare. Di Beichen's expression was serious and sincere, and there was slight tension and worry on his usually evil-smiled face. He was only afraid that because of Han Xiling's matters, he couldn't be happy with Bailey Hongzhuang. If she were to ignore him he would be really depressed. Seeing that Di Beichen was so serious, there was some doubt in Bailey Hongzhuang's heart. In your heart I am so important? Di Beichen nodded without hesitation. And why? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. If it is because I cured your illness you don't need to. No. Not waiting for Bailey Hongzhuang to complete her sentence, Di Beichen had already interrupted her. I like you never because you cured me but because I simply like you. Like your character, like your temper, like your perseverance, like your daring nature, like everything about you. Just because I like you, I want to be with you. Di Beichen's deep sea-like yes shimmered with a brilliant luster, and he gazed at Bailey Hongzhuang, the love and care in his expression clear. This was the first time he had seriously expressed his feelings to Bailey Hongzhuang. He wanted to make Bailey Hongzhuang clear about his own thoughts and believe in him. Actually, I had never thought that I would like a person until you appeared. Di Beichen's eyes were warm with a not-so-distant memory. From the first time I saw you, the feeling you gave me was different from others, and later, after getting along with you more, my heart became warm. I had never felt pressured to marry you. I'm even grateful to that Li for his muddling. It was because of his suggestion that I could marry you. Not for cooperation, just because I want to marry you. Di Beichen's words had absolute certainty. Until now he had only acknowledged his own thoughts. As early as the very beginning, he was bent on making Bailey Hongzhuang his wife and like him. Chapter 579. Are you willing to be with me? He had never been a person who was afraid of rejection. Even though his legs had become crippled, it was not his entire life that he had to be the prince of a country. The reason why he liked Bailey Hongzhuang was never because of her having cured him in the situation at the time, but because he really cared for her. Listening to Di Beichen's words, Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly stunned, and a strange expression and that of wrongness flashed in her clear eyes, but her heart quietly filled with a bit of joy. She had never heard Di Beichen say this. Even when she cultivated outside, he had always been with her, and although she'd always felt it was strange, she had never put his actions in her heart. It was not until Di Beichen had hurried back after the demonic beast tide that she felt somewhat differently for Di Beichen. After Di Beichen had become a student at Songlan College, her feelings and his had become more and more obvious, but it was still the first time that Di Beichen had told her the thoughts in his heart. There are a lot of outstanding women around you, regardless of their strength, status or strength, they are good. Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. Di Beichen shook his head and directly grasped Bailey Hongzhuang's hands. However good others are, they still can't compare with you in my heart. Bailey Hongzhuang's phoenix eyes narrowed and she looked into the pair of serious and nervous eyes. She could only see sincerity that came from the heart, and there was no falsehood. Nyangzi, are you willing to be with me? Di Beichen asked. Bailey Hongzhuang was silent. As a matter of fact, the two of them had already become quite close and were also married. It was a good choice to do this. However, she still bore a bloody sea of enmity, and her parents' whereabouts were unknown. Her future was uncertain. Master, you shouldn't think so much. I think that Di Beichen's will is quite firm, and he is certainly not afraid of such things. If you like him, why bother worrying so much? Xiao Hei's eyes flashed with a touch of gentleness. Unlike their gluttonous nature on usual days, they had been with Master for such a long time, and of course, they had a certain understanding of the thoughts in their master's heart. Di Beichen was really a peerless man. If Master could be with Di Beichen, it was a good thing. Xiao Hei has said it well. According to me, Master and Di Beichen are a perfect match. As for the future, let's think about it later. Xiao Bai said excitedly. Between their master and Di Beichen, there had never been any sort of intimacy. Although Di Beichen's actions had been very obvious, they had always been slight temptations, and he had never directly revealed his thoughts. However, since Master took Di Beichen's hand and walked into the miasma forest, the situation had become different. When Di Beichen saw that Bailey Hongzhuang never said anything for a long time, his heart gradually sank. He had clearly seen that Bailey Hongzhuang had affection for him, but could it be that, because of what had happened later, Bailey Hongzhuang had changed her mind? A feeling of unspeakable loss spread in his heart. Since a long time, Bailey Hongzhuang's smile had already been etched in his heart, and it had become one of the most important parts. If his wifey still couldn't believe in him absolutely, then he would continue to wait. However, just as Di Beichen resolved this in his heart, Bailey Hongzhuang's faint voice rang in his ears. Okay. When this word was heard, Di Beichen suddenly looked up at Bailey Hongzhuang. He only felt that he had got it wrong. Chapter 580. My wifey promised to be with me. Nyangzi, what did you say? Di Beichen was full of nervousness. Can you say it again? Di Beichen's nervous expression was full of disbelief. No matter what happened, he had also experienced many things in his life. Even when his legs had suddenly been disabled, this young master had never shown such a nervous expression. Bailey Hongzhuang saw that extraordinarily handsome but nervous face, and her mouth curved as she chuckled. I've already said it, if you didn't hear it, then forget it. Saying so, Bailey Hongzhuang walked forwards as if ready to go. However, Di Beichen held her elbow and prevented her from leaving. Nyangzi, just once, can you say it again? Di Beichen's eyes were on Bailey Hongzhuang, and Bailey Hongzhuang's figure was reflected in them, as if his entire world had only Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang did not know how important this answer was to him. For the first time in his life, Di Beichen had a woman who he cherished more than his life, but he was not with her. If this news were to be spread, no one would believe it. However, he would remain firm. Even if Bailey Hongzhuang refused, he would continue to pursue her. Because, in his heart, no one could compare with Bailey Hongzhuang. If Bailey Hongzhuang was not willing to be with him in this life, then he would never find another person who was willing to be with him. In the past, in exception to his master, his world was only cultivation. It was the brightest moment of his life, but now his cold and indifferent heart had mixed emotions. For the first time, he felt that he too could feel eagerness, anger, and nervousness. Upon seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but chuckle again as she said, "I said okay." Her voice just fell, and the tension on Di Beichen's face had transformed into ecstasy in an instant. This extreme joy came from his heart, and his ecstatic expression could not be suppressed. He hugged Bailey Hongzhuang tightly, excitedly he twirled around in the same place. "My wifey promised to be with me." The hearty and loud laughter spread through the forest, revealing his uncontrollable joy. Di Beichen finally got what he wanted most in his heart. Suddenly hugged by Di Beichen, Bailey Hongzhuang was shocked for a moment, but after hearing Di Beichen's words, her hands wrapped around Di Beichen's neck. A faintly intoxicated smile spread across her mouth, revealing happiness and joy. She didn't know when she had been completely taken in by Di Beichen, perhaps it was the very first time she had met this unparalleled person. He had been afraid of her being hurt, so he deliberately went to the waterfall to accompany her while cultivating. He was such a handsome man, but he was willing to see all her ugly sides. He had left everything and rushed to the college just to make sure she was safe. Also, he was willing to put his life in her hands as he firmly walked into the miasma forest. The man in front of her was good to her, and all these had been deeply imprinted in her heart. She didn't know since when she had this sincere and perfect feeling for him, but what this man had done for her she felt was unforgettable in her life. Holding someone's hands from youth to when they were old, she had never imagined such a thing before, but when Di Beichen appeared, everything fell into place. Chapter 581 Happy, Di Beichen in the clearing, Xia Zhiqing and others heard Di Beichen's words, and doubt appeared in their eyes. What happened to Di Beichen? Isn't Bailey Hongzhuang already his wife? Xia Zhiqing was puzzled. After all, the words said were really too strange. Could it be that there was something going on with Bailey Hongzhuang's marriage with Di Beichen? Well, as long as they are happy. Dong Fengyu's mouth curved up in a smile, his expression free and easy. Now he finally felt completely at ease. As long as Bailey Hongzhuang was happy, he felt happy. Hearing this, Xia Zhiqing and Gong Shaoqing also showed a smile. They were sincerely happy for Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang. They really are happy. Xia Zhiqing's eyebrows revealed her happiness. If she could be with a person who treated her as well in the future, then that was good. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen later joined with Xia Zhiqing and others. When the two people appeared, Xia Zhiqing and the other two have sly smiles on their faces. Just now we heard someone's words of joy. Xia Zhiqing looked at Di Beichen. What happened? Di Beichen's extraordinary face revealed a smile. My wife finally agreed to be with me. Listening to this very strange answer, Xia Zhiqing couldn't help but ask, "What do you mean? Aren't you already married?" Di Beichen shook his head with a smile. Marriage does not mean that the two people's minds are one. Only now have I finally succeeded. What do you mean? Xia Zhiqing touched her head in confusion. What Di Beichen had said was really incomprehensible to her. Gong Shaoqing's face was also filled with a little bit of confusion. Only Dong Fengyu showed a certain look of enlightenment. Previously he had noticed the relationship between Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen. Although they were already married, there was obviously a certain distance between the both of them. It wasn't until after Di Beichen's determination to unhesitantly walk into the miasma forest that the distance between the two people had disappeared completely. Don't care much about these. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. With her understanding of Xia Zhiqing's character, she would surely keep pondering on this. Hearing this, Xia Zhiqing nodded. I don't care, but after returning to the college, you two must treat me to a good meal. Either way, I helped you get rid of a nasty fly. Xia Zhiqing winked at Bailey Hongzhuang. This kind of thing, Di Beichen had not been able to deal with it. She as her friend would obviously help her bear the brunt. No problem. Di Beichen did not hesitate to agree. His mood was very good. Today was the happiest day of his life. Let alone a meal for some people, even if they invited the whole college to eat, he did not care. We both will also come. That is only natural. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. After going through the monument, everyone only felt that their relationship was getting closer. After all, even in the face of the four major families, they always firmly stood together. This sentiment was precious. When the 5 people walked out of the miasma forest, the mercenaries who had been surrounding the miasma forest had already left. In fact, these people had already left when Yanling Xian took the lead. It had taken some time to complete the blue-level mission of the mercenary union, but their harvest was much more rewarding than a blue-level mission. Chapter 582 Returned to Zhonglan College. The 5 people made their way back to the college, and they all felt different when they came back. This time during their return they only felt relaxed. Without the interference of Yi Hu Cheng and others, and with the experienced Bailey Hong Zhuang and Di Bei Qin, it was very simple for everyone to leave the Luoyin Mountains. No monsters attacked them on the way. Azure Water City. After a period of rushing back, Bailey Hong Zhuang and others finally arrived at Azure Water City. The hustle-bustle and the din sounded in everyone's ears. The familiar scenes, the busy marketplace. Once they saw this scene again, an unspeakable feeling helplessly emerged in everyone's hearts. Although they had left the college only for a month, they had spent a lot of years in the illusion. This period of time was deeply ingrained in their hearts, and at the moment they saw the Azure Water City, they only felt how long it had been. "We are finally back," Xia Zhiqing said with a sigh of relief. With her years of learning in the illusion, her mentality had changed a lot. A little less childish, a little more mature, and many things about her had changed with the gradual tempering of time. Although she seemed the same as before, her temperament had changed a lot. Bailey Hong Zhuang and other people looked at each other and then walked towards the college. Now that they had safely returned, they should first go back to the college and report to them. With Bailey Hong Zhuang and the other 4 walking into the city, all the eyes were condensed on them. "Isn't that the college's special enrollment classes, Bailey Hong Zhuang and other people?" "Yes, it's them. I heard that they were chosen by the master of a monument in the Luoyin forest to get the inheritance, and they are back today." Eyes filled with curiosity or envy fell on the group of 5. As early as when Lu Huaiyan and others had returned to Azure Water City, this news had already spread. During this time, this group of 5 had apparently become the people's focus of discussion. At this moment, when they came back, everyone naturally felt a sense of emotion. Listening to everyone talk, Xia Zhiqing's face showed a wide smile. "Hong Zhuang, this is the first time I have been watched by so many people." When she was with Bailey Hong Zhuang, others were amazed by Hong Zhuang's strength, but there was no word about her. It was also for this reason that she had an unspeakable desire to enter the special enrollment class. She didn't expect that she had just become a special enrollment student, and she had gotten an inheritance. This kind of luck was hard to believe even for herself. All of this was because of Hong Zong and Bai Junyu. If it wasn't for Hong Zhuang and Bai Junyu who helped her speak in front of the 2 teachers, she wouldn't have had the opportunity to participate in the assessment for special enrollment students. She was afraid that even till now she would be cultivating with the ordinary students in the college. Where would she have ever encountered a powerful ancient monument? Hearing the hidden meaning in Xia Zhiqing's words, Bailey Hong Zhuang's eyes also showed a smile. "In the future, you will definitely become the focus of everyone's attention." She believed that with Xia Zhiqing's talent and hard work, her future achievements would certainly not be bad. Xia Zhiqing looked at Bailey Hong Zhuang, and the smile on her lips gradually widened. "I will work hard." Soon, everyone came to the gate of the college, people's voice still following them. Chapter 583 Anxiously awaiting Lu Qinyu. "Ah, isn't that Senior Dong and also Senior Gong? They are back." The students who were practicing in the martial arts field of the college saw the group of Dong Fangyu and others, and their radiant faces were filled with happy smiles at the moment. "I heard Teacher Lu say that they gained an inheritance in the monument. Now I am sure that their strength has increased a lot. It is really enviable." The most enviable of them all is Xia Zhiqing. She just entered the special enrollment class and followed the team while going to the Luoyin mountain range, and this time she got an inheritance. This luck is almost unparalleled. When these words were heard, everyone nodded. They had already gotten used to the strength of Dong Fangyu and others. Because, from the time they entered the college, Dong Fangyu and the others were superior, and the distance between them had never narrowed. However, Xia Zhiqing was different. Xia Zhiqing was originally an ordinary student just like them, and now that Xia Zhiqing could get such a result made them even more envious. Xia Zhiqing's face was full of smiles. She has never been valued by so many people. An indescribable joy spread in her heart. Her constant efforts had not been in vain. Bailey Hong Zhuang and the other 4 people walked to the inside of the college, the crowd's voice still following them. The news that they had come back was also spreading very fast. They believed that even the principal would know soon. When they reached near the special enrollment dormitory, Cui Haoyan, Zhan Yunfeng, Bai Junyu, and Lu Qinyu were standing outside the dormitory building with smiles, watching the approaching Bailey Hong Zhuang and other people. "You are finally back." Zhan Yunfeng's face was filled with an excited smile. We were waiting for you to come. With Zhang Yunfeng's voice falling, smiles also appeared on the faces of Bailey Hongzhuang and others. The only exception to this was Lu Qinyu. Hearing the joking tone of Zhang Yunfeng, Lu Qinyu felt a bit shy, but after seeing the handsome and tall Gong Xiaoqing, the corners of her lips couldn't help but curve up in a gentle smile. Gong Dage, you are back. Her gentle words were filled with endless thoughts and worries, and Lu Qinyu's voice was also faint with a bit of trembling. Since she had left from the gates in front of the monument a month ago, she had left her heart there. After returning, she had no interest in practicing alchemy and no intention of cultivating. All her thoughts were placed on Gong Xiaoqing returning safely, and she was restless. She suddenly regretted that she first went back to the college. At least in the ruins she could also be assured about Gong Xiaoqing's safety. After returning, the only one in the special enrollment dormitory was her, and she was full of sadness every day. Until half a month ago, when Zhang Yunfeng and others told her that Gong Xiaoqing was safe and sound and that he had also gotten an inheritance, only then was she relieved. Since he had already gotten the inheritance, then it would no longer be dangerous. However, as the days passed, Gong Xiaoqing had not returned, and she could not help but feel worried until now she finally had her peace of mind. Gong Xiaoqing nodded slightly, and the face was just slightly less cold than it usually was. However, in the pair of calm and unwavering deep eyes, there was never a response for Lu Qinyu's feelings, and Lu Qinyu was somewhat disappointed. Zhang Yunfeng went straight to Bailey Hongzhuang. After the previous period of time, the gap between the two had already disappeared completely. Chapter 584 Envy. Zhang Yunfeng, Hongzhuang, after such a long time you all have accepted the inheritance? Zhang Yunfeng's eyes sparkled with curiosity. For the inheritance they got, she was very curious, but she was not as lucky as Bailey Hongzhuang and had no chance of being the inheritor. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at her lightly and her beautiful face was faintly smiling. Yes, we came back as soon as we had accepted the inheritance. Zhang Yunfeng looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and Xia Zhiqing. Before she had heard that there could only be one person who could inherit the treasures of a monument, but this time the inheritance has been passed down to 6 people, it was really different. Indeed, we all got an inheritance, but everyone has a different one. Bailey Hongzhuang understood Zhang Yunfeng's curiosity and did not mind explaining it to her. If she had not crossed over but really was a daughter from a general's family, she would be curious about it too. It turned out so. Zhang Yunfeng was stunned, recalling the words of the masters that had said that the inheritance was for the one who was most suited to it. The person chosen would accept an inheritance best suited to the same for the second person, third persona and so on. It's just that she didn't know what kind of inheritance Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had inherited. As for this, it was also not suitable for her to ask. After all, it was not just one but 6 different inheritance. If they had to say it, everyone would feel awkward. Hongzong Zhiqing, I am really envious of you. Zhang Yunfeng said, also feeling a little depressed. If I could get the inheritance, how good it would be. The gap between me and you is really not small. Yunfeng, your talent and potential is also good, but this time the masters of the monument chose the ones who were most suited to their inheritance. We are still young and there will be many opportunities in the future, you don't need to care about these. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled warmly. She felt that Zhang Yunfeng was broad-minded, not a stingy person, and they could get along very well. The 3 of you are finally back. Cui Haoyan's face was filled with a hearty smile and his big hands directly patted on Gong Xiaoqing and others' shoulders. You are now the most popular students in the college. You directly surpassed the cultivators from the 4 major families and got the inheritance. The college has now become famous and this news has already spread wide. Even the principal and teachers are smiling. Now they don't need to worry about enrolling students. I can't imagine how many cultivators are turning their heads and want to enter our college. No wonder I felt that Azure Water City was much more lively than before. It turned out to be so. Dong Fengyu's smile was elegant and charming. He was very familiar with this city, so he immediately found the difference in the city when he returned. Yes, you are now the idols who many cultivators admire, it is really enviable. Cui Haoyan's eyes sparkled with envy. He and Gong Xiaoqing as the leaders of 2 different groups had almost the same standing. Today he had been completely surpassed by Gong Xiaoqing, and the light of inheritance also proved that his talent was not as good as Gong Xiaoqing's. After a short period of depression he adjusted his mentality. In any case, Gong Xiaoqing and the others were all his brother. He was also happy to see the strength of his brothers increase. Chapter 585 Heroes, Songlan College. After some time, Cui Haoyan said, I believe that the news of your return must have already reached the ears of the two principal and teachers. I will not delay you. You should go see them first. Hearing this, everyone nodded. They believed that the principals and teachers had been waiting for them to come back. Then we will go, and later we will all go to Yunyaju, Elegant Cloud Restaurant, for a meal together. Dong Fengyu smiled. Of course. Cui Haoyan nodded. We will be waiting for you in the dormitory. Good. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the others went to the principal's room, to see Ren Tianxiong and Huan Chuyu, they saw Lu Huaiyan and Fu Hongbo standing downstairs waiting for them. They are finally here. Seeing the faces of Bailey Hongzhuang and others, Lu Huaiyan's face showed a happy smile, and they all immediately greeted Ren Tianxiong and Huang Chuyu. Bailey Hongzhuang and others walked before Ren Tianxiong and the other three people. I have seen the principals and teachers. Get up, you are the heroes of our Songlan College. Ren Tianxiong's face was filled with a gratifying smile. Thinking of the demonic beast tied from before, Ren Tianxiong had always been frowning. Now, the sorrow disappeared from Ren Tianxiong's face, replaced by joy and gratification. Although Gong Shaoqing and others came back only today, the news of them getting the inheritance had already been spread. During this time, many people had come to congratulate him. The students of their college's special enrollment students had directly defeated the outstanding children from the cultivating families when competing for inheritance. This was a very outstanding achievement. Others may be happy or unhappy. As the principal of the college, he was the happiest to see the school become more famous. And Gong Shaoqing and the other four people were obviously the heroes of their college. If it was not for them, the reputation of their college would not be so loud now. Although the former Songlan College was quite famous, it was only in this area. During this time, the scope of their influence had obviously expanded by a lot. Listening to Ren Tianxiong's words, the faces of Bailey Hongzhuang and the other people also showed smiles. The principal has said it well. Now you are already the representatives of our college. Chu Huanyu smiled kindly. He was sincerely happy to see Bailey Hongzhuang and other people achieve such a result. You came back directly after accepting the inheritance? Nothing happened after that? Lu Huaiyan asked them. Bailey Hongzhuang and others shook their heads slightly. No, nothing happened afterward. When we left the monument, there were only a few people left in the miasma forest. Lu Huaiyan was relieved at hearing this. They had previously planned to wait outside the monument for Bailey Hongzhuang and others, but they didn't know how long it would take them to accept the inheritance. In addition, there were many things in the college that needed to be dealt with. After some hesitation, they still decided to come back first. After all, they had initially taken the students of the special enrollment caste to the forest just for the blue level mission, and everything that had happened afterward was completely beyond their expectations. Therefore, the amount of time spent in the Luoyin Mountains had exceeded their expectations. That's good. Lu Huaiyan nodded with relief. When we saw you come back safely, we were also relieved. Ren Tianxiong smiled kindly. You must have worked hard while getting back. So go back and rest early. Thank you, Principal. Chapter 586 Stone Door, Primordial Chaos Ring. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other four people left after hearing the praises of the principals and the teachers. The reason why the principals and teachers had seen them now was just confirm their safety, but there was nothing to explain to him. In fact, they have achieved this feat today because of their one accomplishments, but that Songlan College had also benefited. As students of the college, they were a part of the college. The principals and teachers would naturally be proud of their achievements. Everything is done, we can finally go back to rest. Xia Zhiqing's face was full of excitement. They had not had a good rest during the month ever since they had set off for the Luoyin Mountains. Now back to the college, she missed her new dormitory very much. She had gone to the Luoyin Mountains after passing the assessment, and she had not even had the time to see her new dormitory. Looking at Xia Zhiqing's excitement, everyone smiled happily. They really should go back to the dormitory to rest, and then gather together for a meal. Xia Zhiqing's room was next to Bai Junyu's. She had already gotten her room assigned in the special enrollment dormitory. Now she finally had the opportunity to lie in the bed. After Bailey Hongzhuang returned to her own room, she felt a little tired after the long period of exhaustion. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang was ready to rest for a while, Xiao Hei's excited voice sounded next to Bailey Hongzhuang's ears. Master, a stone door opened in the chaos ring. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang felt a little strange. Since getting the Chaos Ring, in exception to getting the magical cultivation method from it, she hadn't gotten anything else. On the contrary, the large space in the Chaos Ring was of great help to her. Bai Shi could cultivate in the Chaos Ring, which undoubtedly saved her lot of trouble. Although there were not many things in the Chaos Ring with the Huan Mo Jing devil-calling scripture, Bailey Hongzhuang did not dare to think of the Chaos Ring lightly. It was precisely because of devil-calling scripture that her strength could be increased so fast. It was obvious how extraordinary this devil-calling scripture that the Chaos Ring had provided her was. Master, go see it, there must surely be some treasure in the stone room of the Chaos Ring. Usually, the stone doors are always close, but after you broke through to the innate realm, the door opened. Xiao Hei's face revealed his excitement. Although they had stayed in the Chaos Ring for so long, they were not clear about the meaning of Chaos Ring's existence. Their only certainty is that the Chaos Ring was really powerful. Bailey Hongzhuang was moved and she entered the space in Chaos Ring, once again entering the palace of black and white. Yu Baishe was now cultivating with his eyes closed in the corner of the palace. From the faintly rising fluctuations, it could be seen that Baishe was undergoing a breakthrough. She believed that it would still take some time before he successfully broke through. Where is the stone room? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. There were many stone rooms in this palace, which was intricate from what she had seen. Except for the stone room with the devil-calling scripture that had been open, there were no other open stone room doors. Master, you come with us. Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai quickly walked towards the stone rooms in front of Bailey Hongzhuang and she followed the two little guys into the depths of the palace. Chapter 587 Mysterious Old Man. Inscription. Master, it is here. Xiao Hei stood in front of the stone room door and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang walked up to the door of the stone room, and she found that this stone room was right next to the room which had the demonic calling scriptures. Gotcha. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly pushed open the stone room door. Like Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai had said, the previously closed stone room had now opened. As the door of the stone room door was pushed open, Bailey Hongzhuang saw the situation inside. In her clear eyes, there was a touch of shock and disbelief. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression revealed her incredulity as she looked inside. How is it possible? Bailey Hongzhuang muttered to herself, and she couldn't believe what she was seeing before her eyes. Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai were also wide-eyed. Is there a mistake here? This must be a trick? There is a person in here, are you pulling my leg? The always well-behaved Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai at this moment, after seeing the situation inside, couldn't help but burst out with foul language. It was really impossible for them to express the shock of their hearts without using such language. It was a large stone room, and inside a man with a head full of silver hair was busy. There were many materials and tools placed on the big table. The old man looked kind, full of wisdom, and at first glance he gave a feeling like a gentle wind, soft and warm, giving people a feeling of peace. However, the old man seemed to never have heard the words of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. His hands were constantly moving, and there was mastery in his every move natural, revealing a smoothness from years of experience. After seeing the tools and materials on the table, Bailey Hongzhuang had already judged that the old man in front of her was an inscriptionist. Inscriptions. This was a very powerful means. Like medicine and alchemy, it was of great help to cultivators. However, medicinal herbs could be used by the cultivators only by ingesting it, while inscriptions provided external assistance. For example, imprinting an inscription on a weapon would greatly enhance the strength of the weapon. Compared with the distinguished alchemists, inscriptionists were extremely rare, and each inscriptionist was someone others were eagerly trying to please. Because inscriptioning was a very demanding profession, it needed meticulousness and patience, and ordinary people simply couldn't come in contact with them. In her past life, Bailey Hongzhuang had also come in contact with inscriptionists and had a very strong respect for this profession. However, the elders in her family were all proficient in alchemy, not inscriptions, so she had always put all of her energy into alchemy and medicine. She could never have thought that she would actually see an inscriptionist in the Chaos Ring. Her understanding of inscriptions was not deep, but from the man's vivid and fluid movements, she was sure that this inscriptionist's inscription must be superb. He was absolutely a master. Otherwise, the intricate inscriptions would never be so easily drawn under his hands. Predecessor. Bailey Hongzhuang greeted slowly. The old man did not reach, and Bailey Hongzhuang could only greet him again, predecessor. However, the old man did not respond, as if he had never heard Bailey Hongzhuang's voice. What is this all about? Why aren't you responding? Xiao He was slightly angry, even if the old man looked quite extraordinary, but wasn't he being too rude? Chapter 588 Learning, Inscriptions. Bailey Hongzhuang carefully looked at the old man in front of her. She had always felt there was something wrong with this situation. The Chaos Ring had existed for countless years, and this stone room had been closed. Did this old man not need any basic living necessities? There was no food in this stone room, no bed, no living supplies. Unless, this old man was not a real person at all. When this idea emerged in her mind, she became more and more aware that her guess was most likely correct. Otherwise, if a person had been locked in this stone room, wasn't that crazy? Thinking of this, Bailey Hongzhuang went straight to the old man and waved her hands in front of the old man. The old man did not react at all. Master, what's the matter? Xiao He's eyes sparkled with doubts. Is it that this old man is not real, just an illusion? Xiao He asked after a brief pause of surprise. Previously, the old man had appeared quite suddenly and it was too shocking. Now pondering on it, they understood. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly, yes. So, the existence of this old man. Is it for Master to learn inscriptions? Xiao Bai's eyes shone brightly. The old man had suddenly appeared here, and this could be the only reason. As soon as this was said, Xiao He and Bailey Hongzhuang looked at each other. They both thought so too. After all, in exception to this possibility, they could no longer think of any other reason. Haha, inscriptions are a very great skill. Congratulations to Master. Xiao He said excitedly. Bailey Hongzhuang gazed deeply at the step-by-step and precise teachings of the old man, and a hint of excitement also appeared in her eyes. If she could learn inscriptions, then it would be of great help to her. This Chaos Ring is really amazing. It was difficult to hide the lamentation on her beautiful and exquisite face. So far, the Chaos Ring had not revealed all of its treasures, but each thing up to now had made her marvel. Even just inscription, she couldn't even imagine how many people wanted to learn inscriptions, but there was no one to teach. Inscription was much more complicated than alchemy. The reason why she did not learn inscriptions in her previous life was that her energy was limited. If she had learned the two together, she may not be proficient in either, so she had learned alchemy. In this world, her alchemy was already outstanding and she had its understanding, and she also had the energy to learn inscriptions. It was a godsend. When Bailey Hongzhuang came to the side of the old man, nothing happened. However, when Bailey Hongzhuang approached the table, a new table appeared immediately, exactly same as the table in front of the old man. Obviously, this table had been prepared for her. At the same time, the old man stopped his previous movement and began to tell the characteristics and functions of inscriptions to Bailey Hongzhuang. He was actually teaching it to her. Bailey Hongzhuang's bright eyes only became brighter and brighter. With such an inscription master as her teacher, it would definitely be easier for her to learn inscriptions than others. In the following days, Bailey Hongzhuang cultivated and improved in the Cultivation Tower while learning inscriptions in the Chaos Ring. Her days were filled and her growth was very obvious. However, inscription was obviously not something one could do half-heartedly and without experience. Even if it was Bailey Hongzhuang, it would take time and patience to learn everything from scratch. Chapter 589 Breakthrough. Baisher. Because of her dedication to cultivation and to studying inscription, there was no time for Bailey Hongzhuang to take on any new tasks. Fortunately, she had received a lot of points from the hands of Wei Meidai and the others. It was enough for Bailey Hongzhuang to squander it for a while. Di Beichen found that Bailey Hongzhuang had become extremely busy after returning, and almost no one could ever see Bailey Hongzhuang. When he thinks about it, he only thought that Bailey Hongzhuang was cultivating so persistently was perhaps because of the pressure from the 4 cultivation family's cultivators. Not only Bailey Hongzhuang, even Gong Xiaoqing and the others were working very hard. On this day, Bailey Hongzhuang did not go to cultivate but stayed in her room. Not for others, only because Baisher would successfully break through today. The time that Baisher has been in closed-door cultivation this time is really long. I wonder what level he can break through to. Xiao He's eyes sparkled with curiosity. After all, Baisher was the beast master. Baisher had only been born for a short while, and his time of cultivation was also very short. However, his efforts compared to his cultivation level were negligible. This guy was a very anomalous beast. All he had to do was swallow demonic beast cores to enhance his strength. He believed that Baisher would have a good promotion in his strength through this breakthrough. He should be able to break through to the innate realm. Previously also this guy had been very proud. Xiao Bai guessed. Hearing this, Bailey Hong Zhuang's was also silent, her heart bitter. She had to work so hard to cultivate. If she had not gotten the many Yuanli Gua in the ancient monument, she was afraid that she would still be unsure of how long it would take to break through to the innate realm. Now, Baisher just had to cultivate by eating demonic beast cores. Now, with this breakthrough he would break through to the innate realm. Wasn't this gap too big? The master was not comparable to the contractual beast, saying this was also not wrong. Having said that, Bailey Hong Zhuang showed a happy smile. Why would she be unwilling for Baisher's, her own contractual beast's, breakthrough? Previously, Baisher's strength was also not enough, but he had only been born for a short period. Now he could shock people. After all, in the past, Gong Shaoqing and the others regarded Baisher as a contractual beast with only an ornamental effect. If a beast master were to be recognized as such, naturally it would be unwilling. Just as Bailey Hong Zhuang, Xiao He and Xiao Bai were thinking these, a powerful aura came from the palace in the Chaos Ring. Baisher, who had been in closed-door cultivation for a long time, suddenly opened his eyes, the pair of eyes sparkling with brilliance. And as Baisher woke up, that aura dissipated. Seeing that Baisher had awakened, the faces of Bailey Hong Zhuang and the two fluffy beasts also showed a touch of joy, and Baisher appeared in the room in the next moment. Master. When Baisher saw Bailey Hong Zhuang, he directly jumped into the latter's arms. He was used to being in his master's arms. Looking at Baisher's actions, Xiao He and Xiao Bai glanced at each other. This guy was still the most favored of master. Bailey Hong Zhuang touched Baisher's head, the white hair felt very soft and she smiled. Baisher, you had a breakthrough this time? Baisher nodded, and broke through to the innate realm. Listening to these words, Bailey Hong Zhuang's smile was bright. It seems that Xiao Bai and Xiao He's speculation was really correct. Baisher had actually broken through to the innate realm directly. Just as Bailey Hong Zhuang was ready to continue speaking, suddenly a knock on the door rang out. Bailey Hong Zhuang, holding Baisher, went to open the door. When she opened the door, she saw the signature charming and evil smile of Di Beichen. Chapter 595 Level Hong Border, Baisher. Wifey, I haven't seen you for these few days, did you also miss your hubby? Bailey Hong Zhuang was stunned at Di Beichen's shameless words. This guy's slickness was really getting better. Too busy, didn't think about you. Bailey Hong Zhuang said and took 2 steps back, letting Di Beichen enter the room, and Di Beichen closed the door behind him. Wifey really made me worry, and she is busy being in closed-door cultivation all day. I see you are working very hard. I am also trying to improve my strength as soon as possible. Bailey Hong Zhuang blinked. During this time she had put all her energy into learning inscription and improving her cultivation. There were not many opportunities for her to meet with Di Beichen. However, a part of her reason for this was also because of their relationship. She believed that Han Shiling was not someone who just put on an arrogant air. The previous things must have made Han Shiling very angry. Even if she had returned to Tiangang Zone, she would not give up on trying to make trouble for her. Due to this, she must also improve her strength as soon as possible. Only in this way in the future, when facing the people sent by Han Shiling, she could stand bold and firm. Seeing the tenacity of Bailey Hong Zhuang with her expression with a little bit of seriousness and apology, Di Beichen smiled and said, I am just joking, wifey does not have to take it seriously. The next moment Di Beichen's eyes couldn't help but fall on Baisher, who was still being held by Bailey Hong Zhuang. During this time he had not seen Baisher appear. Now that Baisher had appeared, he had already succeeded in breaking through. Baisher's strength broke through to this level? Di Beichen's lips curved a bit more, and there was a bit of unconcealable happiness in his bright eyes. Baisher is the beast master, so presumably each breakthrough would have no small progress in his strength. Bailey Hong Zhuang nodded slightly, and there was a bit of pride and joy in her smile. Baisher has broken through to the innate realm, this progress is much faster than mine. Hearing those words, Di Beichen gazed at Baisher, and in the deep and bright starry eyes flashed some thoughtfulness as he said, Baisher should have broken through to the 5th level of Hong Border. This progress is indeed great. Baisher's eyes widened, he had still been thinking of selling Meng, he didn't expect Di Beichen to see through him. Bailey Hong Zhuang also paused. She only thought that Baisher progressed faster than her. She hadn't expected Baisher to reach the 5th level of Hong Border. This progress was too much against the norm. Baisher, you broke through to the 5th level of Hong border? Bailey Hong Zhuang asked. Although he had not said anything, he had directly been seen through by Di Beichen, and so Baisher very proudly nodded. He too was very satisfied with his own progress. Seeing that Baisher admitted, the smile in Bailey Hong Zhuang's eyes also deepened a bit. Haha, Baisher, you are really amazing. She had noticed that she could not see through Baisher's level. It was because Baisher's strength was a lot higher than hers, so she could not see through it. Listening to Bailey Hong Zhuang's praise, Baisher seemed to be excited and shyly dropped his head in front of Bailey Hong Zhuang, extremely cute. However, when this scene was in front of Di Beichen, this was not the case. All along, Baisher had been a demonic beast who was extremely helpful to Bailey Hong Zhuang, but he did not expect that this guy would be a pervert. This was going on, but where was he touching? That was a place that even he hadn't touched. And this little guy had touched it first? No. This was absolutely not good. Thinking of this, Di Beichen directly reached out and took Baisher out from Bailey Hong Zhuang's hands. Chapter 591 Return to Feng Bo Country suddenly picked up by Di Beichen. Baisher couldn't help but struggle before extending his 4 small claws, his eyes full of hope as he looked at Bailey Hong Zhuang. Looking at Di Beichen's actions, an expression of confusion appeared in Bailey Hong Zhuang's eyes as she said, Di Beichen, what are you doing? Di Beichen's enchanting face had a charming smile as he held Baisher securely in his own arms. I just think that this little guy is very cute, so holding it for a hug. Oh. Bailey Hong Zhuang smiled and nodded. Baisher's furry little body really was cute. Even if she had been with Baisher for quite some time, she had never felt that Baisher was not cute. Di Beichen held Baisher in his arms, and his big hands touched Baisher's fur. He felt that although this was the Beast Master, the fur was exceptionally supple and shiny. Baisher's 4 limbs were constantly struggling. He didn't like being held by an adult man. However, even though Baisher struggled, Di Beichen always held him with a smile as he said, this little guy really recognizes his master. He is unwilling even if I hold him. Master. Baisher cried out silently. Although his expression was wronged, Bailey Hong Zhuang did not notice the mourning in his heart at all. Di Beichen sat down beside Bailey Hong Zhuang and said, Hong Zhuang, after a few days the college will have holidays, we should return to Feng Bo Country. How? Her black and white phoenix eyes held a color of strangeness. Bailey Hong Zhuang asked out loud, do you still have a need to return to Feng Bo? Di Beichen nodded, but then shook his head, his black and bright starry eyes shimmering with a playful expression. I have eaten many losses in Feng Bo for at least 3 years. Going now and visiting is also a good choice. Di Beichen then gazed at Bailey Hong Zhuang. Do you not want to go back and see? Bailey Hong Zhuang clearly understood in her mind that whether it was her or Di Beichen, their past life in Feng Bo was unbearable. They had finally left that place and there would be a good show if they went back. You are right, we really should go back. Bailey Hong Zhuang's lips curved up in an enchanting smile. She was sure that after going back this time, there would be no need to return to Feng Bo in the future. For the Feng Bo country or for the general's house that she had lived in for 15 years, she had no enthusiastic feelings. The previous Bailey Hong Zhuang was dead, and the people who had bullied Bailey Hong Zhuang had already been punished. She had no more feeling in her heart. Xiao He and Xiao Bai's hearts also felt quite calm after hearing that they were returning to Feng Bo. In the beginning, everyone had laughed at their master and Di Beichen, who had been crippled at the time, saying they were a natural pair. Now they didn't know how they would react to seeing their master and Di Beichen. After 7 days, Bailey Hong Zhuang and Di Beichen stood at the entrance of Zhanglan College, and Xia Zhiqing and others stood by them. We have a month of vacation, we will see you again in a month. Bailey Hong Zhuang smiled. The college will have vacations in winter, and many students would take this opportunity to go back to visit their loved ones. Okay, see you in a month. All the others nodded. They would return to the college soon, within a month. When Bailey Hong Zhuang and Di Beichen set off for Feng Bo, Xiao Zifan also saw them and couldn't help but walk to their side. Ah, Wangye Wangfei, you are also going to return to Feng Bo? Xiao Zifan asked with a smile. Chapter 592 Cheeky, Di Beichen seeing Xiao Zifan again, Bailey Hong Zhuang's face also showed a touch of joy. Since she had come to the college, she had been busy with cultivating and other things, so she had rarely seen Xiao Zifan. Yeah, these vacations we have nowhere to go, so it is better to go back. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. You're also going back? Then why don't we go together? Hearing this, Xiao Zifan glanced at Di Beichen and smiled. I will not disturb you, I just saw you coming here and wanted to greet you. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. In fact, if Xiao Zifan were to really going back with them, she was afraid that Xiao Zifan would feel very embarrassed. Not far away, Xin Yuanhuan's gaze also fell onto Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang. In Feng Bo's imperial city, he had been like a star in the sky, but since he came to this college, he had lost his former glory. Instead, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen had become the focus of attention. Since he had seen Di Beichen healed and also become a special enrollment student, he had been very jealous of him. In any case, he must not offend Di Beichen. Seeing that appearance that would stand out even in a crowd of 10,000, it had already proved that Di Beichen's background was extraordinary. He really didn't understand why the previous Di Beichen let them treat him like mud all the time, but now he had become an existence far above him. In this regard, his father had not clearly told him the reason. So he hoped that he could understand everything when he returned this time. For Bailey Hongzhuang, Xin Yuanhuan's gaze was a bit more regretful. Previously, Bailey Hongzhuang had been his fiancée. He hadn't expected that she would now become a perfect pair with Di Beichen. Nowadays, with the improvement in Bailey Hongzhuang's strength, he felt that Bailey Hongzhuang's charm was getting harder to stop. Even if he was dreaming, he understood that there was no possibility between him and Bailey Hongzhuang. In a sentence, this was also the thing he regretted most in his life. Feeling the burning gaze behind her, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but turn around and look behind. After seeing Xin Yuanhuan, there was a hint of indifference in her phoenix eyes. Wifey, let's go. Di Beichen was already sitting on his horse as he reached out. He smiled, looking at Bailey Hongzhuang. The sun shone golden behind him, and a layer of sunlight framed Di Beichen's body. The beautiful face and temperament became even more extraordinary in front of Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. However, the next second, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but frown. What about my horse? They had clearly bought 2 horses. Why was there only one left now? She thought about all the things that had happened. How did the horse disappear? Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's question, the smile on Di Beichen's lips curved up slightly. Wifey, I saw that Xiao Zifan was alone. Even his horse had not been readied, so I gave your horse to him. Anyway, we are only 2 people, we can even ride together. What do you think? Bailey Hongzhuang turned around, and true to his word, Xiao Zifan, who was not far away, was holding her horse. Turning her head, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes narrowed as she stared at the smiling Di Beichen sitting over the horse. This guy's face was getting thicker and thicker. It's not very comfortable for us to ride a horse together. I will go buy a horse again. However, when Bailey Hongzhuang turned and was ready to buy a horse, Di Beichen directly pulled her hand, as he held Bailey Hongzhuang directly in front of him. Unable to free herself from Di Beichen's hold, Bailey Hongzhuang became a bit angry. Di Beichen, you. Chapter 593. Why haven't I seen Heimu? Di Beichen's hands wrapped around Bailey Hongzhuang's waist, and his lips were close to her ears as he said, Wifey, the students of the college are all going home today to meet their families. There are not enough horses for them all. If you were to buy another one, what will others do? The warmth of his breath tickled Bailey Hongzhuang's ears, and a different kind of sensation rose in her body. This awkward contact immediately made Bailey Hongzhuang's cheeks flush red. Di Beichen looked at the reddish earlobe of Bailey Hongzhuang, and the smile in his eyes gradually deepened. Although his wife was not afraid of anything usually, in this kind of situation she became shy and rigid. Di Beichen, let go. Unable to stand the ambiguous atmosphere, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but say this. This guy was a shameless rogue. He had caught her in a moment of weakness. It was really abominable. Wifey said that, but unfortunately your husband can't agree. Di Beichen's hands were around her, holding Bailey Hongzhuang, and with his big hands holding the reins, he drove straight forward. Ta-ta-ta. The sound of horseshoes sounded, and Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen gradually increased their speed to become one with the wind, but they were in a calm state of mind and they were not in a hurry. Along the way, Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang admired the surrounding scenery. Both of them put all their efforts on cultivating during normal days. There were a few times when they would be as idle as now. Therefore both of them were enjoying the journey. Di Beichen, you haven't gone back to Tiangangzong since then? Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but ask. It had been a long time since Di Beichen came to Tsanglan College, and even though Di Beichen had already stabilized his position, but he had not stayed in the sect for such a long time. She was afraid that the changes there would not be small. Di Beichen's expression changed a little. Would wifey like to accompany me next time? Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. I'm just worried that it will have an impact on you since you've been out here for so long. Even if Di Beichen's master was the sovereign of Tiangangzong and Di Beichen himself was the young lord of Tiangangzong, now that the sovereign had left the sect for so long, and Di Beichen had also not stayed in the sect for years, the matters in the sect had been handed over to the several elders to deal with. In the long run this was not good. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang, Di Beichen was happy as he said, Heimu has always informed me about the things in the sect. I am not there, but I also understand the situation of the sect. Unless there are some very important matters that I must go back for, there is nothing to worry about at other times. Wifey doesn't need to worry. So, that's how it is. Bailey Hongzhuang said lightly. There was Heimu around Di Beichen who was always dedicatedly doing things for him. He had saved him a lot of trouble. Why haven't I seen Heimu recently? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows in confusion, thinking of when she first met Di Beichen. Heimu had always stayed by Di Beichen's side. Obviously, Heimu should always be nearby Di Beichen, but she didn't know why. Ever since Di Beichen came to the college she had only seen Heimu once. Di Beichen's expression changed a bit, and there was something a little bit unnatural about it. I recently sent Heimu to do some things. Bailey Hongzhuang looked suspiciously in Di Beichen's eyes. She kept feeling that there was something wrong with Di Beichen this time, but she couldn't put a finger on what was wrong, so she could only let it go. Chapter 594 Call me husband, wifey. Di Beichen called out softly. Well? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyebrows rose. What's wrong? Wifey, you see that I have called you wife for so long, but you haven't ever called me husband. Why don't you call me by it? In Di Beichen's eyes the light of anticipation shone. Before, when Bailey Hongzhuang's heart was not on him at all, this was naturally impossible. Now that Bailey Hongzhuang was also in love with him, he had been waiting for those words for a long time. Bailey Hongzhuang felt awkward. Di Beichen's sudden request was beyond her expectations. When she thought of the word husband, she could not say it out loud. No. Bailey Hongzhuang said. Wifey, you only need to call out to me how? Di Beichen's smirking face had a playful smile. Just once. No. Wifey, this thing makes husband very sad. There are no other people nearby, don't be shy. Di Beichen's eyebrows were furrowed, and he deliberately looked at her with a sad expression, his eyes looking at Bailey Hongzhuang with anticipation. Bailey Hongzhuang was stunned at Di Beichen's expression which was selling Meng, and in her heart she was helpless. In fact, with Di Beichen's handsome face persuading her, it was hard for her to either yield or refuse. However, to say something like this, Bailey Hongzhuang was also unable. Seeing the expression of Bailey Hongzhuang, Di Beichen's eyebrows rose. His wife's reaction was not unexpected to him. After all, with how shy his wife is, it was impossible for her to say this. Thinking of this, Di Beichen continued, Wifey, you always call me Di Beichen, it is a bit too distant. According to my opinion, how about you remove my family name when addressing me? Listening to his words, Bailey Hongzhuang thought for a moment. She had always called him Di Beichen, which indeed did not fit their relationship. And seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang promised, Di Beichen's heart was happy for a while. Wifey, do you promise this? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded, looking at Di Beichen's excitement for this. Her heart also felt it was very funny. The young lord of the Tiangangzong was so happy for such a small thing. If it were to spread, she didn't know how many people would joke about this. Wifey, in that case, why don't you call me first? Bailey Hongzhuang's looked into Di Beichen's eyes, stunned. Call you the next time. Please. 1. Beichen. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's ethereal and gentle voice, Di Beichen's eyes were bright and on his handsome face instantly appeared an expression of deep delight. Wifey, why don't you call me again? Bailey Hongzhuang turned to look straight forward. She had no plans to take care of this guy. Di Beichen smiled and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's back, feeling that it was especially fun to tease his own wife. In the past he never understood why those lovers were so happy when they were together. That is, until now when he finally understood. Looking at the slender and graceful white figure in front of him, Di Beichen's eyes were filled with a touch of gentleness. Today he had other wishes. He only hoped to be able to grow old with Bailey Hongzhuang. With the two people not rushing, the journey that would usually take only 7 days, but the two of them took more than 10 days. However, the two did not feel that this road was long, but in fact felt that the time had passed by very fast. This was the most relaxed period of time between the two. Finally, at the noon on this day, the two arrived at Feng Bo Country's imperial city. Chapter 595 Arrived at the Imperial City. Imperial City, Feng Bo Country. The long streets stretched for miles, crowded with people, endless pedestrians, and the sounds of shops selling. As soon as the two entered through the city gate, the overwhelming hustle and bustle were heard by the two people. Everywhere in the Imperial City highlighted the prosperity of Feng Bo. Looking at this familiar scene in front of her, Bailey Hongzhuang's heart was full of emotions. For this place she did not have many good memories, but there was also the sadness in her heart from the former Bailey Hongzhuang. The only memory worthy of her happiness was that here she met Di Beichen. Di Beichen noticed the slightly complicated expression on Bailey Hongzhuang. He also understood the underlying meaning of her expression. "Wifey, I will be by your side in the future." Di Beichen looked at her, his voice revealing seriousness and firmness. In the past, Bailey Hongzhuang had been unhappy, but in the future, he will make Bailey Hongzhuang happy. Listening to the consolation in Di Beichen's words, Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved upwards, her face bright and charming like a bright moon, the previous windy and cloudy expression disappearing. "I know." Her faint and gentle voice held trust in Di Beichen, and her extremely beautiful face was flowing with confidence. In the past, she did not think of these two seriously, although her memories were clear. After all, she was not the one who experienced it. What's more, those people had already disappeared completely from in front of her and would never appear again in the future again. She just felt that there seemed to be no big connection between Feng Bo and her. Originally, the general's house had an inseparable relationship with her, but after knowing the truth about her life's experience, this thin connection had completely disappeared. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang, Di Beichen held Bailey Hongzhuang's hands and smiled and said, "Let's go back to the prince's mansion. We haven't come back here for a while." Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. "Well, I want to go back and see." The two speeded up and rushed towards the Qin Palace, where they still had some memories of. When Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen walked together in the streets of the Imperial City, the gazes of the people fell on them, either strange or awed. Many people had seen their appearance and stretched their necks to look at the perfect couple that had appeared suddenly. In front of their eyes, a man and woman stood side by side. The man was wearing pale gold robes, and silver bamboo were embroidered along the line of the robes. Under the sunlight, they reflected a little. His body was tall and straight, and his appearance handsome, extremely handsome. His perfect and impeccable face had a doting smile, his aura bright and wise. His one look could penetrate one's heart. In particular, the enchanting smile that was slightly evil made the surrounding woman sigh after getting a glimpse. The woman was dressed in a white gauze skirt like a willow, her body was thin and wonderful, graceful. Especially that face which could even fell cities. Different from the gentles of ordinary woman, this woman's eyebrows showed her tenacity and will, which with her perfect and moving face added a touch of uniqueness, making her unforgettable. Walking alongside each other, they were like a golden boy and girl, a perfect match. Like a beautiful scenery, they attracted everyone's attention. Everyone was wondering where these wonderful people came from. They were so good. They had lived here for most of their lives and had never seen such a match. Chapter 596 Only want wifey to see it. "Ah, isn't that Chen Wangye and Wang Fei?" a merchant said after looking carefully at Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen. He had only seen the Wangye and Wang Fei one time. It was only because the appearance of the two was really unforgettable that he recognized them. But he was not so sure now. Because wasn't Wangye a cripple? The man in front of him was clearly walking. How could he be Chen Wangye? With the voice of the merchant falling, everyone else was also stunned. Now they only thought that the two were very familiar, but they had never thought that it was the Wangye and Wang Fei. Because appearance can be similar, but it was impossible for Wangye to stand up with his disability. Yes, it is the Chen Wangye and Wang Fei. I haven't seen them for a while. Wang Fei seems to be more beautiful. The Wangye is also getting more and more handsome, but how can Wangye suddenly stand up? The proprietress of a shop was stunned and her eyes followed them. It was too unbelievable to see these two people. As the proprietress said, Bailey Hongzhuang really had become more beautiful. After her growth in this period, and her study in the art of Go, calligraphy and the zither, her temperament had become more graceful. Just looking at her gave others an indescribable feeling of dignity and charm. My God, the Wangya and Wang Fei are really a too-perfect match. Who dares to say that they are jokes? I say that those people don't have eyes. The people of Imperial City were all completely shocked. The previous Qin Wangya gave them a very sorrowful feeling. If it was not that the Wangya could not stand up, then the Wangya would have been the deserved first beautiful man in the Imperial City. At this point, how many women had sighed? And now, the Qin Wangya had actually stood up. This temperament, this style, even the Crown Prince Shen Yuanhuan could not be compared with him. Some of the people who had come to the Imperial City from the outside, after listening to the discussions of the crowd, their faces showed a curious expression. Why are you looking at them so strangely? You don't know who they are? After the proprietress heard those words, she once again spoke up. Everyone knows that in the beginning, the Wangya was a disabled person who could not even stand up. Everyone knows that he was a waste. Listening to the proprietress's narrative, some people who were not aware of the two also showed amazement. No one ever thought that these two people, who were originally laughed at by everyone, would turn out to be so excellent. There was no one who could associate them with their previous looks. Oh my God, the Wangya is so handsome. I just want him to stand so I can admire him. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were walking along the road, and many women on both sides of the street were stunned after seeing Di Beichen. The street seemed to change to spring for Di Beichen. In the past, they felt that Di Beichen was a crippled person who could not stand up. Although he was extremely beautiful, they did not dare to be with him. Today, Di Beichen had stood up. He was undoubtedly the ideal person in their minds. Now, if they didn't grasp the opportunity, should they wait for an auspicious time? Beichen, it seems that your charm is not small. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips slightly curved, her face had a teasing expression. Di Beichen's smile widened slightly, and he leaned his head close to Bailey Hongzhuang. For husband's charm, I only want wifey to see it. His actions and audible words directly shattered the fragile heart of the surrounding women. Their faces showed disappointment. Chapter 597 You are mine, only mine. Di Beichen's eyes swept over the around them. The next moment, under everyone's curious gazes, he directly held Bailey Hongzhuang's hands and lessened the distance between the two of them. As if telling others to back off, telling the intimate relationship between the two to the people around. Although Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang were already a couple, such a bold move still made many of the people present show a look of discomposure. In this age with conservative people, this kind of action was really rare. However, after some young lovers saw Di Beichen's actions, their faces also showed their envy. I heard that the relationship between Qin Wangya and Wang Fei was very good. I see them now and I realized how good their feelings are. Yeah, it is too enviable. I wonder if I can find a person in this life, a person who can resonate with my heart. Bailey Hongzhuang was also shocked by Di Beichen's actions. In the beginning she wanted to shake off Di Beichen's hand, but after thinking about it she felt that it was unnecessary. She understood the feeling Di Beichen had for her and also understood her own heart. Since they had already decided to be together, then there was no need to fear the gazes of others because they were a pair. Bailey Hongzhuang had always been straightforward, and since she had decided to be together with Di Beichen, there was no need to cover it up. So, everyone could know clearly that they were together. Feeling Bailey Hongzhuang also hold his hand, the smile on Di Beichen's lips widened slightly, and the pair of ink-like black eyes shone with unprecedented brightness. Di Beichen sped up, and holding Bailey Hongzhuang's hand, they hurried back to the Qin Palace. At the same time, the news that Qin Wangya had stood up also spread quickly throughout the imperial city. 1 told 10, 10 told 100, and in a short period of time, all the people of the imperial city had already known the news. Back at the Qin Palace, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but wonder out loud, Beichen, why did you suddenly start walking so fast? Di Beichen's expression was slightly awkward, and there was a bit of dissatisfaction in his expression. You didn't notice, but all those men had been looking at you with those eyes. I couldn't stand it. That moment he only felt all the men's eyes focused on Bailey Hongzhuang. The covetous and fanciful eyes made him feel very upset. With Di Beichen's voice falling, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but chuckle. Nonsense, how can you say that? Di Beichen stepped forward and approached Bailey Hongzhuang, standing before her. In my opinion they were. Bailey Hongzhuang took a step back and her back was now stuck to the wall. You are too overbearing. Di Beichen stretched out his right hand and reached for Bailey Hongzhuang's waist, pulling closer the distance between the two of them. I am such an overbearing person. You are mine, just mine. The voice was low and magnetic, vaguely revealing a bit of jealousy. His wife was so beautiful, he couldn't even count the men who had thoughts on her. He can't let any man have this chance. His wife was his, just his. Listening to Di Beichen's overbearing words that were like an oath, Bailey Hongzhuang felt a bit helpless and funny, accompanied by a bit of joy. She had always known Di Beichen's pride, but she hadn't known that Di Beichen could be so overbearing. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang chuckle, Di Beichen's eyes became darker each passing second, and his voice became deeper and lower. Does wifey think I'm wrong? You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.